world, the IndyCars return for the third year to the Jersey Meadowlands. 1 year ago, Al Unser Jr. charged through a field of veteran drivers, past his father, and on to a Meadowlands victory. For the first time, little Al would share the victory podium with his father, and it set the stage for an emotional, season-long father-son points fight. Little Al is back to defend his title at the United States Grand Prix at the Meadowlands. This year, the points lead is held by another second-generation driver, Michael Andretti. He won his first IndyCar race, the Long Beach Grand Prix, this spring on NBC. And with it, he won the congratulations of his father, Mario. 2 weeks ago, the Andrettis fought it out at Portland, with the senior Andretti scoring the closest win in IndyCar history as Michael ran out of fuel. Here, the spotlight is on the CART kids, Al Unser Jr., the defending champion, and Michael Andretti, the points leader. It's the Chase United States Grand Prix at the Meadowlands. NBC Sports World, and today it's brought to you by LA Beer from Anheuser-Busch, the cool way to kill a hot thirst. By the makers of Fram oil filters, Autolite spark plugs, and Bendix brakes, 3 great names to go with. By United States Liberty Coins, keep Liberty in mint condition with United States Liberty Coins. And by the Prudential, offering a full range of insurance and other financial services. The Empire State Building in the center of Manhattan, and we're just a few miles away at the New Jersey Meadowlands as the IndyCars are ready to take the challenge. We're just seconds away.
Start your engines.
The famous command and 25 IndyCars answer the challenge. The IndyCars are ready to take a run, 168 miles on a Sunday afternoon in New Jersey. The third year they have come to the Meadowlands, and they're ready to go. Bobby Rahal, the Indy champion, he's prepared to run here at the Meadowlands. All of the stars of IndyCars are here and ready to go. Rick Mears, Al Unser Jr., all set, poised, contemplating in these last seconds before they roll away on the start. There is Roberto Guerrero. Hello, I'm Paul Page, and you know, IndyCar racing and CART has really become a family affair. Last fall on NBC, we watched the Unser family, Big and Little Al Unser, father and son, fight it out for the national championship with Big Al winning. Today at the Meadowlands, again, it's a family fight. With me is Bobby Unser, the front row, not Unser's, but Andretti's. Michael is on the pole. Mario is right next door.
But don't forget, now little Al is right behind. I still think it very well could be a family race, Paul. It's working its way up to be that way. It could be Michael and Mario against little Al. It could be definitely going to be Michael against Mario, that's for certain sure.
Well, this circuit here at the Meadowlands is a very demanding circuit. It's a hot, humid day. What wins out, age or youth?
I think that you have to look at it 2 different ways. Number one, Mario is very strong. Between he and his son, he's definitely the strongest. As far as who's the aggressive one, though, we have to all agree it's Michael right now. So I think it's like flipping a coin. And then when you throw little Al into it, and then a whole bunch of other good race drivers, what are we going to have but a good race?
Well, this circuit, very demanding, very tight, very little room for passing. Bobby, let's take a look at the circuit at the Meadowlands.
Most drivers feel this is the toughest road course on the whole circuit. Here we go, 170 miles an hour down into turn 2 and 3, which is second gear turn. We accelerate out of these 2 turns. We go up the short straightaway. We go clear down to first gear. It's a right-hand turn. First gear, reverse bank to the left. And then another good place to pass into 5th turn, number 5, which is a second gear turn. We come out of this turn into a series of S's. Very fast and very wide and very nice. Then we have 7, 8, 9, and 10 turns, which is nothing but a large chicane going up over Highway 20 into a nice fifth gear straightaway right to the start and finish line.
For the race today, they've allocated 98.2 gallons of alcohol fuel. It may not be enough. Gary Gerald has that story.
Well, Paul, fuel consumption has been a major concern for virtually every team at every road course event this year, and no more dramatic evidence could have been found than 2 weeks ago at Portland in the last race when season points leader Michael Andretti actually ran out of fuel within sight of victory, ended up losing by a mere 0.07 of a second to his father Mario. Now here at the Meadowlands, several crew chiefs, including Barry Green, who heads up the Michael Andretti team, have told us that the 98 gallons that they have allotted here in this tank is marginal. They don't know if they can go 100 laps, 168 miles at a full race pace. Now, that's a major concern. There are other concerns. One deals with the heat of the drivers in the cockpit. Bruce Jenner has more.
Thank you, Gary. Fuel is going to keep the auto racers on the racetrack, but what is going to keep the drivers going is a good cool suit. This is briefly how it works. There is a refrigeration unit on board. Then there is a coolant that is pumped up through these tubes into what they call a skull cap, which is placed underneath the helmet. There's capillaries that go back and forth, and there's a thermostat on board so you can keep your head cool. And when your head stays cool, you can think and react to situations that are happening on the racetrack. So a good cool head in this competition, Paul Page, is going to be very important for all the race car drivers for more reasons than one. Paul?
Let's take a look at the starting grid. The pole position here has always been held by the name Andretti, though this year it's young Michael Andretti, the current points leader. His father, Mario, sits alongside on the outside of the front row, with one Meadowlands win to his credit. The second row on the inside, Roberto Guerrero. He crashed here last year in practice and did not drive in the race. The outside of the second row is the defending Meadowlands champion, Al Unser Jr. In the third row, on the inside, is the 1985 Indianapolis champion, Danny Sullivan. The outside of the third row is occupied by Roberto Moreno, who started his Indianapolis car career here 1 year ago. The fourth row on the inside is the reigning Indy 500 champion, Bobby Rahal. Outside, Raul Boesel. He is looking for his first IndyCar victory. The fifth row on the inside, two-time world driving champion Emerson Fittipaldi, looking for his second win in kart. And Jeff Brabham sits on the outside in his Honda-powered machine. Looking at the rest of the field now for this IndyCar race, Kevin Cogan, the first winner of the season, the sixth row. Tom Sneva, the seventh row. Ed Pym, Jacques Villeneuve. Looking back into the eighth row, Jose Legarza of Mexico, Arie Luyendyk of the Netherlands. Chip Robinson, a rookie in the ninth row. Dominic Dobson alongside. In the 10th row here at the Meadowlands, two Indy 500 winners. Johnny with 3 500 wins. Johnny Rutherford and Rick Mears with 2. Randy Lanier and Rick Muskiewicz in the 11th row. Randy Lewis, Rocky Moran in the 12th row, and Mike Nish starts from the 13th starting position. We're looking over the shoulder of Raul Boesel. It's a hot day here today. We do not expect any problem with rain. As now, we're ready for a start here at the Meadowlands. The field rolls down off of the last set of turns and onto the only section on this racetrack, Bobby Unser, in which there really is any straightaway whatsoever. The front row, of course, the Andretti. There's Michael Andretti in that yellow and blue car, Mario Andretti in the red one. They pick up the pace now as they roll toward the green flag. And Michael Cassidy of Chase Bank gives the green, and Mario Andretti pulls across the front of his son as Michael pulls a little high and drops into second. Roberto Guerrero in third, Al Unser Jr. in fourth.
Well, they had a good clean start so far. There's a real good turn, number 2 and 3 turns. If we get through this all right, we're going to be pretty lucky, Paul.
The cars battling through those first two turns, a bit of a traffic jam here in Jersey. It is Michael chasing his father. Mario pulled across Michael's front, and Michael seems to be struggling a little bit to keep up with his dad now. Roberto Guerrero third, Al Unser Jr. is fourth, and Roberto Moreno has moved into fifth.
Now we're coming into the wide part of the track. Now this is where they could really get wound up, and they can afford to have a little different groove, keep guys from passing or take a gamble on how to pass another guy.
Over $700,000 on the line here at the Meadowlands. Mario Andretti has held the pole the first 2 years and won the first year, but something at the back of his car.
He definitely has something coming out of the back, but remember, it's very early in the race, and it could be just a little bit of fuel coming from the overflow in the fuel tank right now.
All of the tanks are full, but we'll keep a look at the back.
You know, it's ironic that Mario's in a Lola. Most of the cars here are Marches. Mario, Little Al, Gallus cars, those are all Lolas. And for the first time, it appears that they've got the Lola cars working a little bit better today, Paul.
Mario Andretti comes across the line. Something laying on the edge of the race course should not be a factor as they complete the first lap here at the Meadowlands. 168 miles, the scheduled distance, and Mario Andretti leads it.
And I don't see anything coming out the back of his car. So hopefully with Mario, this early in the race, it's just going to be a little bit of fuel leakage.
Real challenge at the race for the moment is this one. The battle for third, as it is Roberto Guerrero trying to hold off Al Unser Jr., and Roberto Moreno is right there as well.
Well, it's still very tight and packed up. Uh-oh, we have one in the pits here.
That's Ed Pym already bringing his car into the pit area. Ed Pym, who started back in 13th place, and we also have indications that they're going to give a black flag to the 56 car of Rocky Moran. Apparently, they saw some vapor at the back of his car, and the CART officials want to look at it. Roberto Guerrero, third place, trying to hold off Al Unser Jr.
Well, we have a good race going there, but Roberto Moreno's right behind. Now, there's two Lolas right together. Little Al is in a Lola. Moreno. Guerrero is in a March. So we have a March and two Lolas. Let's see if we can see how the two different types of cars handle, Paul.
Mario Andretti is the leader, with now Michael Andretti pulling up just behind him. There's the battle for the lead. Michael pulls up behind his father, closes in, tucks in behind. Mario comes off the turn just a little bit harder, but here comes Michael down to the inside as they go into number 5. Michael tries and can't get it done.
Now that's one of the best places on this whole course to pass. This is a hard place right here to pass, but Michael won't make it there. But at number 5 turn, we're going to see a lot of passing there all day. I think what Michael was doing is testing his father to see if he can't do it next lap.
Mario Andretti is leading his son Michael now. Michael started on the pole. Mario drifted across there, holding the course for himself, keeping Michael back.
Well, it's obvious, if you watch the car now, that Michael is definitely working better than his father is. And Mario's not going to turn the boost back yet, so it's going to be a race of passes right now.
So Mario Andretti is leading this race over Michael. Michael Andretti currently running in second place, and Michael continues to try. Will he get his dad here? No. He tries and can't get it done on turn 2, coming off of 3. Mario Andretti still leading it. The battle is for the lead here. Roberto Guerrero closes back in behind Michael. There come the Andretti's over the top of the bridge. Michael comes to the inside again. Again, Mario Andretti shuts him off.
That's what he's trying to do. He set his father up, trying to see if he can make it there. Michael is obviously right now another one of his hot streaks. He's really sticking on the ground better than anybody.
Ed Pym moves out of the way to let the leaders come through as Michael continues to knock on the back door of Mario Andretti. He's closing down now. Can he get it again? This is a part of the course in which passing is very, very difficult, if not totally impossible. Mario holds the lead, coming over the overpass, onto the only straightaway section of the course. And it is Mario Andretti that leads his son here at the Meadowlands. Roberto Guerrero is third. Al Unser Jr. is fourth. We'll be right back. Son Michael Andretti at the Meadowlands. Michael had the pole at the start, but Mario jumped right off into the lead and took the lead away from Michael. Michael dropped back just a bit, and now he is trying to catch his father as they come to turn 5. He makes another try, and he gets it done. Michael Andretti has the lead.
This is exactly where we thought he'd start. Now watch him run away. Michael's handling so much better. My predictions are right. He's just going to annihilate everybody and run away. He's really sticking good, and he's on a hot streak.
The question, Gary Gerald alluded to it in the open of the show, is a matter of fuel. Has Mario Andretti decided to turn his boost down, thereby conserving fuel? Because we're looking now at a battle for second. Roberto Guerrero and Al Unser Jr. pulling up behind Mario.
Well, I think what you're going to find out is Mario slowing down. Obviously, he's decided that he probably doesn't have enough fuel, or he's got a handling problem, and he's slowing down. Now, remember, we did see a little bit of something come out of the back of Mario's car, so we can't totally discount him having a mechanic mechanical problem.
Well, there certainly is a question about the Andretti machine. Is it strategy or is it a problem? Roberto Guerrero now chasing Mario Andretti for second place. Michael Andretti is the leader. Roberto Guerrero tries it now. Al Unser Jr. comes by. Roberto Guerrero holds him off. And Roberto Guerrero slides back a position. Al Unser Jr. has third.
That's a hard place to pass. Now, Al Jr. is going to have to get Mario so he can get the lead, get out ahead of there, and be able to cut his booster back and stay fueled. Here he goes right now.
This is the charge of the CART kids. We have watched it the entire season as Al Unser Jr. and Roberto Guerrero double up and double team on Mario Andretti as Al Unser spins it. Jr. spins it. That's just a turbocharger fire. That's not a big crisis there at the back of the car.
But it is a serious thing, Paul. That means the engine is dead. He's without engine. He can't restart. They could push him, get him going, but I just think it totally means he can't win the race right now.
Well, these cars do not have onboard starters. That little fire will burn itself out. It really should not be a problem, but because they don't have starters, he can't get back into the action.
Well, he wasn't ready for a spin. He was trying to pass Mario on the outside, and there were just too many cars getting into the same turns at the same time, and unfortunately, he just lost the car, and more unfortunately, it's going to put him out of the race.
So Al Unser Jr. was battling up in the front, hoping to go to the lead, and then suddenly, while he was side by side with Mario Andretti, there's little Al, the redhead, while he was side by side with Mario Andretti and with Roberto Guerrero, he got sideways. He didn't touch the wall, but the car has not been able to restart, and it won't be able to.
No, it won't, Paul. It looks like what happened on that scenario is that Mario was just not handling right, or something was wrong mechanically, and he was kind of holding everybody up, and too many guys were trying to get the same car at the same time, meaning Roberto Guerrero and Al Unser Jr. Poor little Al just got caught in there and lost it.
A fabulous look over the left shoulder of Raul Boisel as the race at the Meadowlands continues. Now, let's have a commercial word with three-time Indianapolis 500 champion Johnny Rutherford and Bob Douglas, vice chairman of Chase Bank. We've got a problem in the second turn as Mike Nish, who was added as a promoter's option here, loses the back end. But unlike Al Unser Jr., he's been able to keep his engine going.
Well, Paul, it isn't going to help. His rear wing is all bent. He went into the tires just barely, but nonetheless, the Machinist Union car is going to be out. They're going to have to come in the pits and replace the wing or just get out of the race.
Can't race with that wing cocked like that. Mario Andretti into the pits as his son leads it. There goes Mario rolling down. Bob Sproul, the Newman Haas crew, ready to go to work on the car, but it appeared, we mentioned it, that something might be wrong with that car because we saw a spray at the back of it and then began to fall backwards, and they're taking the bonnet off the cover of the engine. So obviously it's serious. Here is the leader, Michael Andretti.
Yes, and it's obvious that Mario's just going to have serious problems. Whenever they take the hood off, that means the car can't win the race. It's really kind of sad for a driver that goes as good, especially at this racetrack, as Mario does.
Well, Michael Andretti has one less factor to worry about. His dad, Mario, was the winner at Portland 2 weeks ago and took the race away from Michael in the last 200 yards. In the closest road race finish, closest finish in IndyCar history, 7/100ths of a second. Now he at least doesn't have his father to worry about.
Michael's got his boots cut back now, Paul. He's really going to play a smart race because right now he has an edge on everybody.
All right, let's go down to the pits and Gary Gerald.
Mario Andretti, as you can see, continues to just sit in the cockpit, the crew working on the left rear of the car. Indications of overheating. In fact, a couple of buckets of water are standing by in the case that any of the bodywork should flame up. We don't know specifically what the problem is, but obviously this is going to be a long afternoon for Mario Andretti, and great disappointment for a former winner here at the Meadowlands.
Mario Andretti with his problems as he sits in the pits and they work on the car. He is definitely out of the order and out of the competition. Just behind the tow truck there, you can see the number 30 Domino's Pizza Hut, one of Al Unser Jr. He is out of the race. So two major factors out of the race early. And Raul Boisel off the course. The corner workers trying to push him back so he can get going.
That's not only sad for Raul, but it's also bad for us. That was our own cam car, Paul.
Well, let's hope he can get back in the race. The man that's definitely in the race is this fellow, Michael Andretti, with a long lead here at the Meadowlands. Michael in the Craco STT lean machine number 18, 10 seconds ahead of the second place car of Roberto Guerrero. Third place is now Roberto Moreno. And Michael is just disappearing from this field, which has demonstrated once again the dominance of this Preco team.
Well, because of some of the fuel problems, in other words, the fuel economy problems, everybody right now should have their boost down. So I think right now you kind of see everything setting a little bit status quo as far as really hard racing goes, Paul.
Michael Andretti closes down behind Randy Lewis and continues to cruise on a Sunday afternoon in Jersey. Michael Andretti leads it. Roberto Guerrero runs in second. Roberto Moreno is third. Tremendous battle developing at the Meadowlands for fourth place. The unusual combination is not Rick Mears, but we're accustomed to seeing him in that yellow car. If you look carefully, you'll see the number 4 and the red and white helmet. That is Danny Sullivan. And Danny Sullivan is right now running in 5th place. He's trying to hold off a charge by two-time world champion Emerson Fittipaldi.
Now that's going to work up to be a good race. We have a nice one working here. Danny is really quick on a course like this, and Emo, I believe, has never been as quick.
Let's go down to the pits. Gary Carroll.
Well, Paul, out of the race, very disappointed. Mario Andretti. Mario, we understand it was a problem with the water system somehow?
Well, the water pipe broke, and that's what was getting on my wheels. I didn't know what was happening to the car because I was slipping and sliding on my own liquids, and finally then figured, well, it's got to come from me, and realized that it was my engine, and the engine started slowing down, so I pulled in.
So you had an indication then for at least a couple of laps that there was a problem.
Yes, about 5 or 6, but you like to hang in there as long as you can, you know, and then when there was no way, obviously, I came in.
So now there's no other choice but to become a rooter for your son, Mike.
Of course.
Mario Andretti out of the competition, Paul, a former champion here at pit side.
A run that was doomed right from the start, as you saw the vapor on the back of the car on lap number 1. The continuing battle between Sullivan and Emerson Fittipaldi.
Well, that's a good race. They've been racing hard, and Emo's tough on road courses. He's a two-time, I think it is, a two-time Formula 1 champion. And
Two-time world champion, youngest ever in the business.
He's good, and he's in a very good race car, too.
A lot of debris out on this course. You noticed it as they came over the Route 20 bridge between turns 4 and 5. It could be a factor, Bobby, if that debris gets up into the coolers of these cars.
Well, the problem, obviously, will be the radiators, and it's right up on the sides of the cars. You can see the radiators right there. And if it gets in there, they have overheating problems. And what they are hamburgers, wrappers, and hot dog wrappers.
Let's hope that they're not a factor today. Let's go to the other end of the pit and Bruce Jenner.
Thank you, Paul. With me, Barry Green. The man has really turned this Preco team around with Michael Andretti. And Barry, at Portland, we know what happened with the fuel. Michael right now is running very hard. He's way out there in front. Is he being conservative with fuel or not?
Well, we've turned the boost down now, Bruce. We're obviously concerned about fuel. We've got a similar problem to what we had at Portland. We don't think quite as bad, but he's trying to conserve fuel as well as himself. It's hard work out there.
And I notice you're taking his times. He's still running very competitive, very quick time.
Very consistent. He's quite happy with the car, so things look good at the moment.
All right, so Mario Andretti out of the race, but Michael Andretti is still in the heat of it.
And Michael is pulling away now almost a 13-second lead over the second-place car of Roberto Guerrero. This saw a terrific battle that is now developing for fourth place as Danny Sullivan and Emerson Fittipaldi are closing down on Bobby Rahal. And by the way, Raul Boisel, the camera car, has a broken gearbox. He's out of the race. And a gearbox, Bobby Unser, is part of the concern here today. This track is tough on him.
Well, one of the problems we have, Paul, is that all the clouds that we had earlier are just slowly fading away, and we're getting the sun beating down on the pavement and on the cars, which tends to make everything run a lot hotter than it was being planned on before the race.
So Michael Andretti has bled right after he took it away from his father, and his father, Mario Andretti, has fallen out of the race. This is Paul Page with Bobby Unser, Bruce Jenner, and Gary Gerald. We are back at the Meadowlands, and we're watching the battle for third place. Roberto Moreno holds off Bobby Rahal, and there is Danny Sullivan trying to hold off Emerson Fittipaldi. Two fights right together here at the Meadowlands.
Well, occasionally they even get together a little bit closer. In fact, Sullivan has really taken a hard run trying to not only get away from Fittipaldi, but get up there and get with Rahal. And sometimes they get up, but it seems like maybe the racetrack's a little bit slippery, and then they fall back. Remember, Paul, the sun is beating on the track now. There's no more clouds above us, so that really makes it the track a lot more slippery.
And it's a circuit that is very difficult to pass on. Now, both of those battles are beginning to close down on slower cars on a long, sweeping straightaway. Johnny Rutherford sits just ahead of them now as they come up behind another slower car. Rahal gets around Moreno. Sullivan holds off Fittipaldi. These are the top positions that are battling through the back of the field.
I think the one thing the drivers hate most of all is lapping cars. They're catching the slower cars. It's so narrow on this section of the track, it's extremely hard to pass. Now, once they get...
The leader's got a problem. Michael Andretti's car is off the circuit. It looks like the engine may have let go.
Well, I can't tell, Paul. He's into the tires there, but I don't know when he had a little record.
Look at the steam pouring off of that
Certainly
machine.
looks like an engine problem. That's coming out right out of the turbocharger area right now.
All right, Bobby, the question is this. They were all worried about fuel. It's a hot day, over 86 degrees. Maybe they leaned the engine back too much and it overheated?
Could have burned the piston out. That's exactly what would show up if you burned the piston. Lean it down too lean, but
let's watch it here.
Now.
There's the engine. Let go, coming into 5.
Well, that's obviously the engine. It's a possibility it's a transmission, but I'd say there's a 90% chance it's the engine.
So Michael Andretti, who picked up the lead from his father, is now out of this race. The number 18 machine sits alone by the side of the race course. And so the leader now becomes Roberto Guerrero.
Now, let's go to our studio in New York.
Sir, we are back at the Meadowlands for the Chase Grand Prix. And Roberto Guerrero, there he is, car number 2, leads this race. He is looking for his first IndyCar victory. Now, according to calculations, they should be due for their first pit stop any moment. And the pit stop will be very crucial. They're concerned about fuel. They're concerned about having enough to go the distance. 2 pit stops are scheduled here as Roberto Guerrero keeps that car out on the main stretch and continues a lead. He is 7 seconds in front of the second-place car of Bobby Rahal. Not enough time to hold the lead should he stop now, but it certainly will give him an advantage.
Well, Paul, most of them, I think, there comes Emerson Fittipaldi in the pits now. What you're going to find is a lot of the cars are going to come in a little bit early just so they can get a measurement on their fuel mileage.
Fittipaldi, he is the 4th-place car as he entered the pits. Left front is being changed. The right front is being laid out as well as the methanol fuel pours into that March racer. Gary Robazzini runs around, checks one side after changing the right front. And Emerson Fittipaldi rolls back into the action, the first of the pit stops among the leader serial.
Did you notice the mechanic reaching into the radiator pulling paper out, Paul? That's from all the wrappers that we were talking about on the track a little bit earlier.
I really expect the trash on the track might become a factor here today because as hot as it is, near 90 degrees, if paper gets in those coolers, these engines will go very quickly.
And we're losing the clouds. As time goes on, there's less clouds all the time.
So the sun shines down on the Meadowlands, and that could be a factor as well, as Emerson Fittipaldi dropped down to 7th place as he made that stop. We're waiting and expecting stops from the leaders. Bobby Rahal is in 2nd place and into the pits now. The True Sports crew is there, and so is Gary Gerald.
Bobby Rahal waiting patiently while it's a 3-tire change. Some smoke coming from those brake ducts up front. That's indication of how hard they've been working on the brakes. You can smell it. It's an acrid smell as the car comes down on the jack. Bobby Rahal, the Indy 500 champion, is back on course.
Oh, you could see how much trash they just pulled out of that radiator. That may end up being a bigger factor today than we planned on.
Well, the leaders streamed past Bobby Rahal, and Rahal dropped back to 5th place as a result of his stop. Roberto Guerrero, car number 2, is apparently getting some pretty good mileage because he's staying out. He has a veteran crew chief in Phil Casey, who has 10 IndyCar victories to his credit, so Phil certainly knows exactly how far that car will go.
Well, he does, Paul, but it'll also tell us that Roberto's maybe running a little bit less boost than some of the other guys are running. The less boost you run, the better your mileage is.
Danny Sullivan is running in 2nd place, and he roars down toward the pits as well. Rick Moskiewicz, one of the rookies on the circuit this year, the former Can-Am champion, is into the pits as they work on the clutch there, and there's Danny Sullivan. The 2nd place car is into the pits. So
So Chuck Sprague and the Penske crew working on that car, and they're changing the wing angle on the front of the car.
Well, that shows that he's been pushing the front end or understeering just a little bit, Paul, so that's a natural thing to do that during the pit stop.
And if the question was the clutch, there may be evidence of it as they try to roll Danny Sullivan. Finally, they're able to link up, and he rolls away.
It would appear that he's lost his clutch, and what they do is they give a car a push, and then he just jams it into gear because they're just little old dogs that jump into the gears together.
Well, Danny Sullivan hooks up and rolls back into the action, and Roberto Guerrero continues the lead, but now he is 16 seconds ahead of second place.
But he still hasn't stopped, Paul. He's going to have to stop within 1 or 2 laps. He just can't go this much further. He can't turn down the boost, but so far, I'm sure.
You'll notice on the right side of Roberto's helmet, he has a tube there that is helping push air up into his helmet and into the uniform to try and keep him cool.
Well, a lot of time, Paul, those vents that they have going into the helmet are so they can hear the pop-off valve if it comes off, too. But today it's a hot day, so they need the air in their helmet.
Roberto Guerrero leads at the moment. In the Penske pits is Gary Gerald.
Paul, it's just as you and Bobby had suspected. Danny Sullivan has no clutch. He lost the clutch, they tell us, on the 3rd lap of the race. So he's doing a masterful job on a very tough, demanding course with no clutch. It's tough circumstances to be up still near the leaders.
Paul, the biggest thing about losing the clutch is you can downshift all right. It's the upshifting that gives the problem. In other words, you go from 2nd to 3rd, 3rd to 4th, and 4th to 5th, then you need the clutch. But if you go from 5th down, pretty easy to do without a clutch. Here's Johnny Rutherford into the pits now. Looks like a routine stop.
Johnny Rutherford doesn't have quite as much success on the road courses as he does on the oval, though he has performed rather well on the ovals recently and has remained in the point standings. Roberto Guerrero still leads, but Phil Casey and the crew wanted him in on the last lap. He did not come in. To our surprise, I'm sure to the surprise of his True Value crew. So will he make it around 1 lap more? Has Phil Casey cut it just a little too close?
I certainly hope he hasn't, and it's a little hard for me to believe that he didn't see his pit sign. He should either be able to see the pit sign or listen to the radio, Paul.
Pulling into the pits, Rocky Moran, he comes in. Not a factor in this race at the moment. Moran running well back in about 16th place. The question is this car, Roberto Guerrero, Bobby G. He's from Columbia. He's just moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, along with his wife, Katie.
He's not only a good race driver, he's probably the nicest one I've ever known. And he really needs to win a race sometime.
And he stays out again. He continues to drive past his pit. Now the question is, does he know something that the pit doesn't know?
Well, Paul, I'm without an answer right now. I think it would have been nothing but good smartness to do that. Although we watched Mario Andretti win, Long Beach doing the same thing one time, and so maybe he does know something that we don't know, but I'm sure his crew ought to know at least.
Well, let's review what he could be looking at. He can tell how full the car is to a degree by the way it handles. He also has a light on his dash that indicates when the fuel load gets down, but it's not a good idea to totally trust that light.
Paul, you can't trust them that far. The lights are just an indicator that you're getting close. They don't really tell you that you've got 1 lap left or 2 laps left. And I used to have those on the Penske cars, and they're just not that reliable. And I certainly hope that his is reliable today.
Well, a lot of the crews hoped that they would make it this far, but many of them chose to stop early. You saw Danny Sullivan stop for the Penske team. You saw Emerson Fittipaldi stop. Roberto Guerrero stays out.
Here he comes in now, Paul. That's lap 40.
So Roberto Guerrero rolls down into the pit area. Let's go to Bruce Jenner.
And Roberto Guerrero into the pits with a tremendous amount of material coming out of the front of the car. Obviously, they've had trouble picking up a lot of paper and stuff off the track. It's a 3-tire change. Right now, Joe Kennedy is working on that right front tire. As Terry Gibbons is waiting for the fuel to top off, it has, waiting to take it off the jacks. Roberto Guerrero back out into the race. They pour it down. Roberto Guerrero with a good stop considering everything that happened. He is chasing after his first IndyCar victory.
Paul, that really isn't a bad stop. It looks like 21 seconds is a long stop, but you consider they had to clean out his radiators completely. They recognize that could be a problem today. Now, it may not turn out that the extra time was well worth it.
He's having a little bit of a problem coming back up to speed. Now he's at full chat. Roberto Guerrero loses the lead on that stop. It appeared that he was passed during that stop. We'll resolve that in just a moment. But a busy stop for Roberto Guerrero on his way to what he hopes will be his first IndyCar win. Roberto Guerrero
looking for his first victory, and it may happen here at the Meadowlands. We're back at the Meadowlands. This is Paul Page with Bobby Unser, Bruce Jenner, and Gary Gerald. We're watching the battle for second place. The number 3 car, Bobby Rahal, the Indy champion, holds off the 1985 Indy champion, Danny Sullivan. Sullivan does not have a clutch.
Well, they're still having a good race, and if you believe what we see on the TV, looks like Sullivan's got that Rahal pretty worried. And Rahal's one heck of a good road racer, incidentally.
Despite the fact that he doesn't have a clutch, Sullivan is able to race because you don't actually use the clutch when you're shifting gears on a road course, only when you pull away.
Well, most of the guys do use them, but it's really nicer if you shift like from second to third, third to fourth, fourth to fifth, if you can use the clutch. Now, when he downshift, he can just plunk them right in, and they'll fall in place. So it doesn't hurt him going into the turns. It's only when you come out of the turns he gives a little bit away. It's probably the difference right now between him and Danny Sullivan passing Bobby Rahal.
There's the leader, Roberto Guerrero. He's 15 seconds ahead of that battle for second place. You see Al Unser Jr., the 30 car, right there. But little Al is well off the pace. He's spun off the course and went 8 laps behind the leader and is currently running in 17th position.
Yes, but remember another thing, Paul. It's also very important for the team. Domino's Pizza keeps that car on television, too. That's a lot of this finish we have today.
Well, he's in the right place. He's running right behind the leader and keeping place with him. Danny Sullivan, who is now running in 3rd place, trying to catch second. Emerson Fittipaldi is running in 4th, and now running in 5th place, Jacques Villeneuve, the French-Canadian, the Eagle River Snowmobile champion, has moved up.
Boy, is he one good snowmobile racer, too. But I'll tell you, he's one good road racer, Paul. He's having a good race here today, and he really could be a possible winner.
Bobby Rahal in second. There's a problem. Ari Lyondike and Chip Robinson get together. Lyondike in the black car. He's restarted, and it looks like he's going to try and pull away. So is Robinson.
New rules this year, Paul. They have to have...
Whoa, and Rahal almost gets into the back as there comes second, third, and fourth through. And Lyondike stops.
Looks like he lost his engine. Looks like he just killed it.
Rahal's car looks okay. So does Sullivan's. That was one of those almost crashes.
Well, he obviously lost his engine is what happened. He started taking off, and he must have just let the clutch out a little bit too soon and killed the engine, Paul.
Very dangerous position in the 4th turn, an off-camber turn, and it's blind. They can't see him until they're right on top of him.
That's what I was just going to mention now. It'll take the guys a full lap. The guys that don't know he's there going to come around and have a big surprise. That's the most dangerous place to be parking on the entire course.
Well, let's hope that they pay attention to those yellow flags, because Ari Lyondike in the 61 car is sitting right smack dab in the center of the course.
I'll bet you he's saying a few words himself.
The leader is still Roberto Guerrero, and he gets past that accident. In 2nd place is Bobby Rahal. 3rd place is now Danny Sullivan. Emerson Fittipaldi is 4th, and Jacques Villeneuve is back in 5th. We're back at the Meadowlands. This is Paul Page with Bobby Unser, Bruce Jenner, and Gary Gerald. Roberto Guerrero leads this race, but there's a tremendous fight for second place between Bobby Rahal and Danny Sullivan. There the fight just begins to come on the scene. Emerson Fittipaldi, the 2-time world champion, is sitting in 4th, and young Jacques Villeneuve, with only 1 IndyCar victory to his credit, now sits up in 5th place. There's Danny Sullivan, the number 4 car. The number 3 car is Bobby Rahal. He is in 2nd place. As they come over the bridge and down into turn number 5 with Fittipaldi just behind. Roberto Guerrero, car number 2, leads this race. He's finished 2nd. He's been a bridesmaid, but he's looking for his first IndyCar victory. Here's the attrition, which has been stupendous here at the Meadowlands. Mike Nish is out. Mario Andretti very early on after leading the first lap. Raul Boisel, our camera car, is out. Jeff Brabham's Honda engine overheated as a result of debris in his coolers. Michael Andretti's engine let go. Again, overheating suspected as the problem. Kevin Kogan had an accident. They understand that he has an injury to his leg. We'll report further on that. Rick Mears' Chevrolet engine apparently had a problem for Rick. Roberto Moreno, Tom Sneva, Ari Lyondike was involved in an accident in turn 4, a quick brush with the wall, and he is out. So let's go now to Roberto Guerrero's pits and Bruce Jenner.
Thank you, Paul. I think an interesting thing has happened out here in Roberto Guerrero's pits. Bill Casey has been the crew chief for the last few years, and well, just recently the workload got so heavy
about him that he decided to go out and look for a chassis man, somebody specifically work on the chassis. Found a guy named Lee Dykstrom from the Jaguar team in IMSA. Lee Dykstrom came in for the last few races, and the chassis has worked, and it's filled free to go out and do other things. So I think it really shows you, because ever since that team has been put together, the True Value March and Roberto Guerrero has been a front runner. They've been out in front. So it really shows you that IndyCar racing is truly a team sport. Paul?
You know, as well, Bruce Jenner, Bobby G has really only had one of the two races to his credit here. Last year, he came to the Meadowlands, had 3 different accidents in practice. They finally boxed the car up and went home. Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan. The battle is for second place.
You know, Paul, this is a lot tougher course than people realize, too. As little Al said yesterday, you just never have a straightaway. Your car really never gets straight here. You're just continually turning all the time. In fact, the drivers don't even have time to look at their gauges. They just have to watch the course.
Danny Sullivan, the bright yellow car. Let's go to the other end of the pit, and Gary Gerald.
Paul, you were talking about the attrition factor. It really relates to little Al Unser, and here's his team. They lost 8 laps, as you mentioned, with that early problem in the race. They're battling back, but as these other leaders fall out, he moves closer to the top 12. If you get in the top 12 at the finish, you get championship points. He missed the national championship by just 1 point a year ago. Maybe he could make up a point that could be critical come the season ender in Miami in November today.
Well, Gary, he's moving up. He's been running faster than the leader, and he is right now 7 laps behind the leader, running in 13th place. So if he moves up 1 more, he'll move back into the points. Good point, Gary Gerald, as we watch Bobby Rahal, then Danny Sullivan, and then Emerson Fittipaldi. There's the current 13th place runner, Little Al, your nephew.
Yes, well, he just got those points, and he wants that domino to show up on television. But he is running the fastest on the track right now, Paul. I bet the team's kind of proud of him for that.
Now Danny Sullivan comes right up behind Bobby Rahal, tries to close on him, uses the advantage of floor traffic just in front, but immediately Rahal sports away from Sullivan. 14 cars continue to run. 11 cars are out of this race.
Now, second, third, and fourth place have been having a race, a hard race for a long time, and those guys are just going to be dedicated to having a knockdown and drag out before it's all over.
Rahal and Sullivan roll past Randy Lewis and continue their battle, though Sullivan stays at about the same position off the back of Rahal's car. And then Emerson Fittipaldi is just a bit back from this.
Well, I really think that Danny could probably take a swing on Bobby Rahal if he just had a clutch, Bob. But he isn't going to have one, so he's just going to have to figure out another way to pass him.
Well, we've had new winners this season. Kevin Cogan won his first IndyCar race at Phoenix. Michael Andretti won his first at Long Beach. Will it be that Bobby Guerrero will now win his first IndyCar race in this 1986 season? We're back at the Chase Grand Prix at the Meadowlands, looking down on the Meadowlands, the Brendan Byrne Arena, Giant Stadium, and of course the IndyCar track here from the Goodyear blimp. Captain Richard Daniels of Pompano Beach, Florida, giving us these magnificent pictures from high above the Meadowlands. Bobby Rahal, Danny Sullivan, second and third place as they fight for second behind Roberto Guerrero, the leader.
They've been having a hard race a long time. The big problem right now, Paul, is how much trash is collecting in the radiators, and are these cars that we're watching having problems? You'll see at the next pit stop that they make, which is not too far away, they're going to be pulling trash right out of the front of the radiator.
Now, Emerson Fittipaldi made a pit stop. He made it very early. Apparently what happened was the fuel light, the low fuel light, came on his dashboard. He got worried. He came in. It turned out the fuel light was wrong.
Well, Paul, that's what we were talking about earlier. That light is supposed to be nothing more than a warning. In this particular case, it's a good example. It lied to him. He had, I understand by talking to his crew a while ago, he had 15 gallons of fuel left.
Sunday afternoon drive for Roberto Guerrero. He's unchallenged for the lead and just driving a magnificent race, looking for his first victory.
Now, you know that pit stop that Emerson Fittipaldi made, he was running in fourth place. It took him out of the sequence, out of the serial right now, but it still doesn't mean that he can't win the race.
There's second place, Bobby Rahal. Danny Sullivan, the number 4 car, is third. And just behind Danny Sullivan is Jacques Villeneuve, the current fourth place car, that white number 71 car.
If you look real hard, you can see hamburger wrappers are hot dog wrappers on the front of their car. See the number 3 car, and you can also see it on Danny Sullivan's car, too.
Another thing, too, when we get a view of Jacques Villeneuve, who's wrapping on the back door of these 2 cars, another factor, remember, is Villeneuve has made his last pit stop of the day. So when these 2 stop, Villeneuve should charge forward. As the leader rolls into the pit, here's Roberto Guerrero on a good insurance stop to the end of the race. Let's go to Bruce Jenner.
Roberto Guerrero is in the pits. It's a little bit earlier than they planned. We're looking for paper in the radiator and trying to get it out. As the team is working on the car, it looks like a routine pit stop. As the leaders go by us, Roberto Guerrero in a little early, and the engine died. The engine died on Roberto Guerrero. They're going for the starter. Roberto Guerrero, the leader from almost the entire portion of this race, is now trying to get the car started. The car is started. A long pit stop for Roberto Guerrero, who's been fighting this whole race in the lead, but an unfortunate stall of the engine, Paul Page.
At the same time, Bruce Jenner, Danny Sullivan makes his stop, and now he chugs away with that bad clutch as Roberto Guerrero rolls back into the action. Bobby Rahal stayed on the course, and so the Indy champion picks up the lead.
Well, boy, you can certainly bet there's going to be a race now. The lazy days are over. Now Guerrero's going to have to get it up. He's definitely going to have to try to pass Sullivan, and he really should be capable of it. Because Danny, remember, does not have a clutch.
So Danny Sullivan makes his stop. Let's go down to Sullivan's pit. Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, Sullivan made what appeared to be a routine stop. They changed the tires. They topped off with fuel, which should be for the last time today. As indicated, they cleaned around the radiators. They got a lot of paper and debris out of there. The problem was getting the car back in gear up to speed. But despite that, Sullivan was still able to get his car out well ahead of Roberto Guerrero here at the end of pit road. So Danny Sullivan has gained a spot at the expense of Roberto Guerrero on what should be the last stop of the afternoon.
The leader is Bobby Rahal, the Budweiser, car number 3. He has not yet made a stop.
Well, Paul, that's going to be the big factor, and it's going to happen before too very long. When he makes his stop, if without trouble, he could possibly be our winner.
So now we have had 3 lead changes. It was Mario Andretti that led from the start, and then Michael got past Mario when Mario's engine went. Then Michael's engine went, and that gave the lead to Roberto Guerrero. Roberto Guerrero stalled the engine on that stop, and when he did that, then Bobby Rahal took over the lead of this race. And here comes the leader into the pit. Bobby Rahal rolls down, and Bruce Jenner is there.
Bobby Rahal, the leader in the race, as the Budweiser crew works over the car. It looks like a routine stop. He's getting some refreshments. Now, if you listen to the car on the straightaway, you can hear a popping noise in the engine, and the reason for that is I just talked to the crew chief, as it seems that the rev limiter is off, and the car is not able to rev all the way out. They're finishing off the fuel, and we're going to as Bobby Rahal gets back into this race. As the rev limiter is out, where it's going to hurt him later on in the race. If he has to make a charge, he cannot get maximum RPMs out of that engine. Paul Page.
And as Rahal comes out of the pits, there's the leader, and it's Danny Sullivan. He tries to get around him. He locks the brakes and can't do it. Rahal still has the lead, but Danny Sullivan's right there.
Oh, that was a close one. Where can you see racing better than that? Danny tried hard, but he couldn't do it. But remember now, Danny Sullivan is always the hardest charger in the latter part of the race of all the drivers that we have.
Boy, what a shock that had to be for Rahal when he came out from behind that pit wall. And there sat Danny Sullivan. Whoa, boy, get out of my way.
You know, Paul, he really wasn't looking. He was so interested in just getting out on that track. And you come out of a place where you go right into turn 2. So he really didn't see Danny coming on him. So he just went for it, and that was it.
Well, Danny Sullivan knew what was going on. He saw Rahal, and he wanted him. Now, Rahal's tires are finally up to heat and working properly.
Well, you know, especially without a clutch, Danny needed that shot to get ahead of Rahal right then, a lot worse than people can realize.
Boy, he almost stopped him there. It was close. And Sullivan tried to get the later Rahal, but Bobby makes his pit stop and maintains the lead.
Well, that's the kind of racing that makes the CART Indy racing really nifty.
So the battle is out in front. Bobby Rahal with Danny Sullivan wanting to take that lead away. The past 2 Indianapolis champions battle on the road circuit at the Meadowlands.
All right, now remember, we've got Bobby Rahal. He's having a missing problem. Remember, the rev limiter is cutting out, and the car right behind him. Danny Sullivan with no clutch. So in a way, we have 2 partially lame cars here.
Oh, they cut! And Sullivan lost the race and knocks the side of Rahal. We talk about tough driving. Now you're seeing it. Look at these guys. And Rahal gives the lead away to Sullivan.
Boy, pretty hard driving going on there. That's almost getting back like the super modified days, Paul.
It's not track
Sunday afternoon at the Meadowlands. Rahal in second place, but both first and second place are working with mechanical problems. Third place is Roberto Guerrero.
I think they're both very lucky that their cars aren't bent from that one.
Here they are. This is it once again as Sullivan tries the inside.
Boy, that's a hard hit on those cars.
Incredibly lucky that they didn't touch surface to surface on the tires, or somebody was going through the air.
That could have been one of the worst wrecks I could have seen in a long time, but it appears like neither car is injured or damaged.
I wonder, though, if it seems like it could not have gotten away without bending the front suspension on one of those cars.
Well, it certainly wouldn't look like it. They're fragile cars, and well, these are well over $250,000 cars.
Well, Danny Sullivan is now our leader, picking it up from Bobby Rahal.
You know, Paul, that is the most common place to pass going into turn 5, and I just don't think Bobby Rahal just totally expected Danny to take a run on him right there.
There are 11 turns here, 1.68 miles around. There are only 3 places in those 11 turns to pass, so they're desperate to get by when they can, and you just saw an example of that. Emerson Fittipaldi charges on Roberto Guerrero and at the Meadowlands. Emerson Fittipaldi passes Guerrero and he picks up third place. Now Fittipaldi sets sail to try and catch Bobby Rahal. The leader is still Danny Sullivan.
Danny is absolutely way out in front. This is a big surprise. Roberto Guerrero, Paul, just totally dominated this race for a lot of it. Fittipaldi just absolutely drove right by him. So I have to think there must be something wrong with the handling on Roberto Guerrero's car right now.
2 former Formula One drivers. Emerson Fittipaldi 2 times the world driving champion. Maybe Emo just saved the car better.
Well, it's his type of racing. This straight racing, road racing, is Emo's type of racing. Emo's in the old Marlboro car just like he did the Formula One days. And I know he's going to be tough here today, but, you know, this is a hard course to pass on.
Emerson Fittipaldi, everyone thought he would make his first victory on a road course. He didn't do that. He won last year's Michigan 500. We got a car off on the inside. And as a result, it just pulled to a stop there. That's the number 56 car of Rocky Moran. And they got the yellow flag out in one of the 3 passing areas.
Doesn't look like a wreck or an accident, Paul. Looks like it's just a quit of some type, an engine maybe.
There is Emerson Fittipaldi, currently third place. Second place is currently Bobby Rahal. And in his pit is Bruce Jenner.
Thank you, Paul. I just talked to Steve Hoare, the crew chief for Bobby Rahal. He's in communication with Rahal, and although his engine is missing, you can hear him go down the straightaway, and the rev limiter is coming off too early, so the engine starts to misfire. Also, in that accident with Sullivan, he bent the left rear tie rod on the left side of the car, so every time he goes into a right-hand turn, the car becomes very unstable. Even with all those problems with the car, Bobby Rahal is able to stay in second place, now being challenged by Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul?
Well, Bobby Rahal's car limping around this circuit, but able to stay in second place behind Danny Sullivan. The status of Sullivan's car. Let's get that from Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, we talked at the start of this race about the worries of fuel consumption on the road courses, how tough it's been this year. We've talked to Derek Walker, the team manager. We've talked to Chuck Sprague, the crew chief. We've talked to Roger Penske, the car owner. They all say fuel is not a concern for Danny Sullivan. They got the tank empty, but there's enough in the car to go the distance. However, remember, since lap 3 in this race, no clutch for Danny Sullivan. It really hurt him both times he had to exit the pits. But then after the contact with Rahal, he's in the lead. He's holding the lead. He's hoping it'll be his first victory now since Miami and the season ender last fall.
Sullivan leaves it. There's the interval. You saw Danny Sullivan come through. Now we look back. Here comes Bobby Rahal, and Bobby Rahal is 8.5 seconds back from Danny Sullivan, and right behind him, of course, is the number 20 car of Emerson Fittipaldi. And Roberto Guerrero and Jacques Villeneuve are sitting just back behind that. That's the top 5. We started this race talking about the CART kids. Michael Andretti led in the early going, had an engine let go. Al Unser Jr. spun in the early going, dropped 8 laps behind the leader, but he's worked his way back up to 10th place now, 7 laps behind the...
Well, that's good, Paul, but you've had a lot of attrition today, and it's been good for little Al, point-wise, and also just to get all the time he can on the car. Remember, the Lola cars generally haven't been as fast as the March cars, so they need all the time they can do. Every race they're trying something different, some innovation. Mario's car was a lot faster today than it's been all year. So The Lolas have to come from behind a little bit.
They're on the pit straight now, as it is still Danny Sullivan that leads this fight for second place between Bobby Rahal and Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson Fittipaldi tries Bobby Rahal and picks up second place behind Danny Sullivan at the Chase Grand Prix at the Meadowlands. In the final laps of this race, Emerson Fittipaldi moves around Bobby Rahal and into second place, and now sets sight on Danny Sullivan, the leader, who is just 7 seconds ahead. Nice, clean pass.
It really was. MOU's a little problem that Bobby Rahal has. That means his rev limiter comes out at high RPM, and he was in third gear going in that turn, and MO just probably over-revved his and drove right by. He watched for about 3 laps on that one move, Paul.
Emerson Fittipaldi now pulls away from Bobby Rahal. The leader is the yellow number 4 car, a horse of a different color for Danny Sullivan, the leader here at the Meadowlands, looking for his 6th IndyCar victory. Now Rahal moves around the slower traffic of Randy Lewis and of Johnny Rutherford and sets his sights once again on Emerson Fittipaldi. We look from the Goodyear blimp down onto the track itself between turn 4 and 5. There's the leader. That shows you the distance that Danny Sullivan has ahead from that Goodyear blimp as he makes his turn into turn number 10 now and up over the sweeper toward 11.
Just look how wide that racetrack is on the back side. Now look how narrow it gets right in here, Paul. From right here to clear back to turn 5 again. That's how narrow it is. It's really only about 2 lanes plus a little bit wide.
Danny Sullivan is the leader with 92 laps of 100 complete. We look down from the Goodyear blimp on that number 4 car of Danny Sullivan. Heading for turn 2, there's the Goodyear blimp high overhead the Meadowlands here. Danny Sullivan, the leader at the Chase Grand Prix here at the Meadowlands. Sullivan looking for his 6th IndyCar victory in that bright yellow number 4 machine with just 4 laps to go. But the Penske team has told Sullivan, drive easy, slow it down, conserve your fuel. Fuel is very definitely a factor here.
Remember another thing, Paul. He hasn't had a clutch for a long time. He's been abusing his transmission because of the lack of the clutch. So he also wants to take care of that the last couple of laps.
There's the rundown right now with Emerson Fittipaldi in second. Let's go down to the Penske pits. Gary Gerald.
Paul, it's been an interesting weekend for Danny Sullivan. He was in the PC-15 on Friday, had gearbox problems. He started with a fresh gearbox on Saturday's practice, had a motor problem, got in the March, got the March dialed in very quickly for qualifying, started 5th, now has worked his way into the lead. His best finish this year, a 4th in the season opener at Phoenix. As we mentioned earlier, he hasn't won since November of last year in Miami. He's that close right now, and you can sense it down here in the Sullivan Penske pit.
The car does limp around the circuit, though, because he does have that clutch problem. What about Emerson Fittipaldi? The car seems to be healthy. Let's go down to the Patrick pits. Bruce Jenner.
Well, down here at Emerson Fittipaldi's pit, it really, what it shows you about at this race is being consistent and staying in the race is very, very important throughout the race, all the way through. Also, Emerson Fittipaldi made his passes when he could. He didn't get in any trouble whatsoever. And that has shown that it's going to keep you in second place. So, really a great race for 2 fabulous teams. We still have good old Penske versus Patrick. Paul?
So the continuing fight between Patrick and Penske goes on, led by this man, Danny Sullivan. Of note, too, in the top 5, Rahal is currently running 3rd. Currently running 4th is Roberto Guerrero, our longtime leader. Jacques Villeneuve is running in 5th. 6th is Randy Lanier. Jose Garza is 7th. If those 2 stay that way, they will both score the best finish yet of their career.
Well, they certainly earned it today, Paul. Just think how many years it's been since we've been watching the 2 P's, Patrick and Penske, race each other. The big bucks team.
Hot day here at the Meadowlands, especially hot for Danny Sullivan, who is trying to nurse a car around that has a clutch problem. And Emerson Fittipaldi certainly knows it by now and would love to catch him. But there you see, from the blimp, Emerson Fittipaldi, who is running in second. He is 7.5 seconds behind the leader.
Well, he's picked up about 2 seconds recently, but there isn't enough laps left for him to get up and catch Danny. Unless Danny has a problem, the way it's looking, he really shouldn't have any problem.
Another factor with that second place car, as we get a good idea of the interval, the yellow car making the turn to the right is Danny Sullivan, and 7 seconds back will be Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi saw a fuel warning light. It scared him. He came into the pits way early. The question will be, too, do they have enough fuel to make it to the finish, or does he have to pop in and out on the last lap?
Well, Paul, he really was in at a good time. I don't really think that's going to be a factor. The white flag is out. Now we're on the last lap.
1 lap to go. Fittipaldi certainly will stay out as Danny Sullivan has already started the last one. Emerson Fittipaldi streaks across the line. 7 seconds behind. Danny Sullivan looking for a victory. Looking in the Fittipaldi pits now. They're wondering what they will do. Will they come in second? Will they catch the leader? Will Danny Sullivan's clutch hold for this full lap? Sullivan on his final lap at the Meadowlands.
Well, he is going to have enough fuel, that's for sure. I think the clutch of the transmission is going to hold out. Or no clutch, at least the transmission. There's Peggy Sullivan, yep.
Peggy Sullivan, Danny's mom, as she is talking Danny around this last lap.
One happy lady.
Danny Sullivan looks for his 6th IndyCar victory, the 1985 Indy champion. A 46th victory for the Penske team, if only they can get it done. And for Chuck Sprague, the crew chief, it would be a 3rd win.
And here he comes down the last straightaway. Coming down not too far from the finish line, Paul.
Danny Sullivan, a final burst of acceleration. Here he comes on the main stretch. The twin checkered flag from Nick Bernaro. And Danny Sullivan wins the 3rd run at the Meadowlands. Danny Sullivan wins it here in the Miller American. Emerson Fittipaldi across the line in 2nd place.
You can even see the wrapper still up on his rear wing.
There's the Penske team. Roger Penske in the white shirt in the center. A 46th victory in the IndyCar for Roger Penske.
And there's one guy we always expect to do well on this type of racing.
For Emerson Fittipaldi, it is in 2nd place. We'll be back to talk to the leader right after these messages. Grand Prix at the Meadowlands. Let's go to Gary.
So the helmet comes off. Danny Sullivan stretching in the cockpit, finally getting some relief after such a long afternoon. You can tell that there's jubilation, but there's also a lot of fatigue. An opportunity to finally flex the fingers and stretch the hands. Congratulations. It's been a while since you've been here in Victory Lane. Last fall in Miami, Danny.
Yeah, it's been too long, especially for all the guys. We've been working hard, and one of those deals with 2 cars and the Chevrolet engine and all that sort of stuff. It's just been tough all along, and of course we had to change the cars halfway through the deal, or the qualifying, and big vote of thanks to Pete and Mark and all those guys and everybody who worked on the car.
No clutch, we understand, from about the 2nd or 3rd lap today.
That's right. It just went flat on us. We'd had the problem one other time during practice, and we thought we had cured it, but obviously not. That's why the pit stops were a little slower than usual, only on my behalf. The guys did great, but I had a little trouble leaving.
2 weeks ago in Portland, you were a victim in an accident. Today, you had contact with Rahal when you got the lead. How close a call was that?
Well, close enough. I don't like to take the lead that way, but I felt that Bobby had been, he was on full tanks just leaving the pits, and I felt my car was working a little better, and I went under him, and of course I didn't have any clutch, so when I couldn't get a gear, it was charged right in there. I feel bad, but I'm glad he recovered and it wasn't like last week.
Well, you're in Victory Lane. It's academic now. Congratulations. Here's your champ, Danny Sullivan, Paul.
At a record speed, Danny Sullivan takes home over $86,000 of the over $700,000 purse. Emerson Fittipaldi 2nd, Bobby Rahal 3rd, Roberto Guerrero 4th, Jacques Villeneuve 5th, Randy Lanier in 6th, the best career finish for Lanier, Rutherford, and then Jose Legarza with his best career finish. Al Unser Jr. moves into the points despite that spin, and Randy Lewis finishes off the top 10. Danny Sullivan, the 6th career victory for him. The Chase Grand Prix at the Meadowlands is over. This is Paul Page.